Hello there, kia ora. It's budget day, and I keep getting this sense of looming dread all month leading up to it. Like the people in Independence Day when the aliens first showed up over their cities. This government has shown time and time again that caring about the average person is not on its priority list. Even this week, in the lead up to the budget, we had Mental Health Minister Matt Ducey and bed leg boy from Tauranga Sam Uffindale in the House laughing at comments about how they've increased domestic violence and homelessness for women and children. But as the budget was being poured over, yet another protest with thousands of people stood outside on the grounds of Parliament because this budget was made possible by the letter C for cuts to pay equity claims. Those cancelled pay equity claims ended up adding $5 billion a year to the budget, totaling $12.8 billion over 4 years. That's almost $13 billion taken by ensuring that the lowest paid people in our workforces are kept there as the lowest paid people in our workforces. KiwiSaver contributions are going to rise to 4%, while government contributions are going to be halved, and means testing is going to be introduced. But you'll be able to request to stay at 3%, and so will your employer for their contribution. So low-income earners are going to see some pressure put on them by their employers to save less in their KiwiSaver to help their employers, or end up with less in their pocket at the end of the week after payments are taken out. And all of this from a government that got up in arms about how past proposed KiwiSaver changes would impact retirement savings of people. Best Start will be means tested, and the households that earn over $90,000 per household, they're going to get nothing from it. And with the average gross New Zealand household income already sitting at $136,000, and the household income for two full-time minimum wage earners already at $97,000, well, that's going to see a huge drop-off of people actually being eligible for it. It's a change that one economist said would have negative impacts on about 60,000 households. ECE funding has been increased less than 1%, but inflation still sits at 2.5%, so that's a real-world spending power decrease in funding. 18 and 19-year-old job seekers will have tighter eligibility criteria and be income tested on their parents' income, because as far as the government's concerned, parents should be financially supporting them. But the government hasn't decided how to test the parents yet, and the number of people on benefits has increased more than the Treasury expected last year, and they're staying on longer, and wage growth has been slower because there aren't as many jobs out there because the government tanked the economy and so many people are up and leaving. So I'm sure that's going to end really well for everyone. And fees for universities have been given a 6% increase for next year. Radio New Zealand is having its funding slashed by $18 million over 4 years, which is actually the follow-through on threats from the likes of the current Deputy Prime Minister, and the Deputy Prime Minister will have in 2 weeks' time. Most government departments don't see an increase in funding but have to deal with an increase in costs, while there's $500 million in tax cuts to the tech sector after tax changes announced earlier in the week. There's $15 million in private school upgrades, while pensioners see an increase in funds from various changes of less than 50 cents a week on average. There's nothing for climate change, but $200,000 for gas exploration in fields where nothing has been found for a quarter of a century, and we're spending chump change on food banks for a year whose increased use is actually the direct result of the very policies that they've put in place. Those ones that Matt Ducey and Sam Uffindale were laughing at. And all the while, those tax cuts for landlords and tobacco companies remain. That $2.9 billion for the tax cuts for landlords, well, that sounds an awfully close number to that $5 billion taken from women's pay equity. As Craig Rennie said, this budget helps those who need it least and harms those who need it most. And here's the thing, this budget is, to the vast majority of New Zealanders, a total train wreck. Sure, the government will crow about little increases and tiny wins in fiscal responsibility, but to get to even the most marginal of places where that was possible, if it were true, is by denying pay equity, which they rushed through under urgency without public consultation, and even that wasn't enough to stop Willis from making changes that are going to help low-income households less than they are now, force young adults to remain reliant on parents while refusing the parents the tools to help ensure that they can afford to help them if they are low-income families. They've made it harder for most government departments to have the resources to do their work, and they've handed out lollies to a bunch of their friends. Before the budget, there was some online chatter about what we should call this year's budget. And now we've seen it, it seems pretty clear that this should be the fuck you poor people and women budget. Because if it was anything else, there might actually be some consideration on whose backs were broken to pay for the toys for the government and their friends. Hey, thanks for checking out today's video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe so you get more updates as we go along. We deal with these guys for the rest of the year.